good afternoon to everyone. We are going to start with conference number 39. This conference is really important because we are going to study the topic of criticism, of judging other people, and identifying with daily situations that we encounter. This conference is titled the non-identification with everyday things and why we judge others. So let's start to analyze this subject deeply. When one criticizes another person, what happens is that the conscience falls asleep. So it's really important, in order to awaken our conscience, to start self-observing our inner psychological defects, what we have inside, so that our conscience doesn't fall asleep. We always see mistakes that other people commit when they are angry, when they are disorganized, and we don't see those defects inside of us. We think we are perfect. So as soon as we start working in our own defects, in our own psychology, we can move forward and start advancing. But if we become stuck just criticizing, judging the external part of others, we cannot advance. We cannot get in touch with our 3% of conscience, that is justice, wisdom, and love, because our work is to awaken that percentage of conscience that is trapped in ego and is bottled up in our inner darkness. But if we cannot get to see our inner darkness, but we are always watching someone else's defects, well, we cannot do our own duty, that is to eliminate ego and what we have inside, self-observation. It's the faculty that we need to awaken. So the non-identification. When one identifies with daily problems, we have different circumstances, different problems, difficult situations that we encounter in day-to-day activities. And when that happens, we identify with a psychological defect. For instance, if we are upset with our daughter or with our husband, we start fighting, we start having an argue, and we avoid the duty of self-observation, that faculty that we need to awaken in that moment. We lose it because we start arguing, we start feeling the psychological defect of anger, of discussion, of contradiction, and the conscience falls asleep. The vigil is lost. The vigil is the virtue that we have to be looking all the time at our inner world, what's happening, what do we feel, what do we think, what we desire, what are we planning to do, what are we planning to say, is this useful, truthful, and fair. We are always supposed to be looking inwards to our microcosmos, saving our energy, saving our emotional energy, our mental energy, our motor energy. But what happens when we feed a psychological defect is that we are giving that energy to all our psychological defects. We have greed, lust, anger, pride, and all of those defects want to feed on our energy. And when we identify with the defect, we immediately lose the power of self-observation. We cannot discover that that is a psychological defect that is taking away our energy, that is contaminating that energy, and that we need to use that energy in order to create our inner existential bodies. So it's really important that we don't lose our ability to self-observe what's happening in our microcosmos. If we are doing things that are not useful for anything, if we are wasting all the time just watching TV or looking at social networks and just gossiping, well, there is a defect of gossip there that we need to discover and eliminate. But if we are identified with the pleasure that generates us to feed that defect, well, we cannot self observe what's happening, and we immediately do what the defect wants us to do. So, vigil is lost. Also, we need to see the difficult situations, the hard circumstances that we encounter as something that is going to sooner or later going to pass. We tend to magnify problems. We tend to see problems as eternal things that are not going to pass away, that we are stuck with that problem, that we are suffering a lot. But if we learn to see life as a passing movie, we are going to avoid that identification, and we are going to rescue what is useful, what is truthful, what is fair of any situation, in order to profit that moment to awaken our conscience. For instance, if you have a relationship and you're fighting with your couple, you're arguing, you're having a hard moment, and you think that it's something that is going to last forever, that you are suffering, that you don't know what to do, maybe because of jealousy, and you think that you're going to avoid that situation, that feeling, just by consuming alcohol. Well, you're going to have a recurrence, something that is going to happen because you weren't able to self-observe your inner world, to discover the defect, to eliminate the defect, and you were stuck with your suffering and fed psychological defects that were even worse. So if you profit that moment, not to suffer, not to just think that you cannot deal with the situation, that you cannot solve it, that you better just get rid of the problem, evade the problem just by drinking or doing something different just to entertain yourself, well, you are not going to profit that moment in order to awaken the conscience that it's bottled up in that defect. You need to face the situation. You need to analyze, reflect what is happening. What am I doing to cause this? Well, we always tend to blame the other people. My couple was my husband, my wife is the one that is causing that problem. I'm not guilty. I'm not doing anything wrong. It's her, it's him, and we just avoid the duty that we have to self-observe. What am I doing wrong? How am I behaving? How am I talking? What am I feeling? Why don't I trust my husband, my wife? Maybe if it's a jealousy problem, I need to analyze, why am I untrustful? Why am I feeling this? What am I thinking about my partner? And I'm going to solve the situation. So I'm going to maybe recognize that is a psychological defect that is causing the problem, the situation, and if it's jealousy, I'm going to eliminate the different egos. Maybe there is an ego of inferiority that thinks that we are not enough for that person, or maybe there is an ego of adultery that is just imagining that my wife or my husband is feeling attraction towards someone else, but it's just our psychology. And we learn to deal with the situation, to solve the problem, not just to evade it with another defect like alcohol, but just to solve it and just to get out of the situation and get into an harmonic state with that person. Because we have bad relationships with people because we don't know how to eliminate our psychological defects. So we just criticize them, we blame them for all what's happening, and we don't eliminate the defect that is inside of us that triggered the whole problem. So the mind magnifies problems. Problems are caused by fear. the ego of fear keeps problems alive, and we tend to make the problems bigger than they are. For instance, if we want to evade the situation of discussing with our couple and feeling angry and shouting and yelling, and we just go to a tavern and drink, that is evading the problem and making it much bigger. And all the problems, we tend to make them bigger because we want to just let ourselves be carried by those forces, those negative forces, and we just don't face them. For instance, if you have an economical problem, you don't self-observe yourself, but you start all the time thinking with the mechanical imagination that you are going to end up in the streets begging for money, that you're going to be kicked out from your job, that you are going to be put in jail because you don't have how to pay your debts, and you magnify problems, and problems are much easier to be solved. If you look at your economical problems, there are egos that are defects that cause the problem. For instance, you have a defect of being wasteful. You have a lot of money and you want to show yourself, you want to invite everyone for a meal, you want to show yourself that you are successful, and that you have a lot of money, and you don't value that money that came to you because of your wasteful egos that wasted all the wealth, the external wealth, in things that were not useful, not truthful, not fair, just for showing out, just for saying to all people, oh, I'm rich, I'm successful, and you didn't get to self-observe that defect. So you end up being with debts, lacking of money for what's useful for your daily necessities. So that's what happened, that you didn't self-observe your wasteful defects, and then your defects of not having anything, not having that inner, that external wealth that you need in order to take care of your issues, of your daily things to pay. So problems are magnified by your mind. Your mind, tends to see things much bigger than they are. You just have to get to the root of the problem and attack those egos that are causing the situation. Face your fears and look at the causes. What are the causes of this situation? What put me in this situation? It's that I don't know how to handle money. It's that I have a defect of pride that wants to show out, and that caused me that I was in a state of poverty. So you solve the situation, and then you don't have to imagine that you're going to end up in the streets begging or in jail, or things that are much bigger in your mind. The worst circumstances in life turn out to be those that contribute most to your inner growth. You are put in difficult circumstances just to get something from it, to profit the moment in order to awaken your conscience, because you just feel a lot of suffering, a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, and you're worrying. Well, you cannot see beyond the problem. For instance, if you are feeling really stressed out because you don't know how to pay your bills, you don't know how to solve your love things with your couple, your discussions with your husband or wife, your relationship with your family, with people at work, and you say, no, the problem is much bigger than me. I can not solve that. This is something that is so confusing, and I don't know how to get out of this problem. But you haven't gotten to the root of it. the root of that problem are your psychological defects. If you have a problem at work, maybe it's because you don't have a good relationship with your colleagues. You're always showing off, you are proud, you are criticizing others, and that's what don't get you to get along at your job environment. But if you look at those defects and you attack them, you stop giving the energy to those defects to criticize people. You stop feeling superior, and you mm, change your attitude. Things are going to change as well, and it's going to be easier to get out of those situations. When you judge others, you cannot be able to put in the this person's shoes. You need to feel what the person is feeling. You need to be aware that everyone has problems, and in the external part, we always judge people. We think, maybe this person at my job is really proud. He thinks he's the best. He thinks that he can solve all the situations. He thinks he performed better than me, and I just criticize that person, and I cannot get to self observe what's happening in my inner world. Maybe I think I am better for the job. Maybe I want to compete with that person. I want to show off. I think I am superior. I think I'm more qualified for the job. And I have a lot of defects of pride. And as I am criticizing the other person, I cannot see the defect inside of myself. But that is the law of the mirror. What I criticize in someone else is what I have inside, and it's urgent to see that psychological defect, because this clouds my judgment. My judgment is the ability to do inner justice, to do an inner balance of the energy of my seven centers of my human machine, my mental energy, emotional energy, to do something useful with my words, with my actions. But if I always demanding people to act in a right way, and I don't act in a right way myself, so there is no way to come out of the problems. I'm always just going to be in total darkness, because I cannot see the light that is trapped in that psychological defect, that is the wisdom. So we don't understand why that person did that action or acts in a certain way. We can only see the external appearances. We don't know ourselves, and people in the outside serve as a mirror for us to see the reflections. So if we think that someone is really angry, explosive, that he doesn't know how to react in the different circumstances, we also have this defect, the defect of being all the time defensive, reacting, insulting, yelling, shouting. We also have those defects. Under different circumstances, these defects come out and feed on our energy, but sometimes we repress them, and we think we are perfect by the forces of the personality, that we apparently are nice, are gentle, are kind with people. But as soon as we are triggered by those reactions, well, we are going to see how those defects that we criticize also come out and manifest in the external part as well. Our ego leads us to criticize and puts our conscience as left. The ego doesn't want us to discover what's happening inside of us. Psychological defects just want to feed on our energy, and so they do not want us to discover them in order just to keep feeding from our uh, emotional energy, from our mental energy, from our motor energy, and so we need to profit this. That is the law of the mirror. Be able to see that what we criticize the most on people is what we need to urgent eliminate on ourselves. If we see someone walking down the street and we say that person is really not kind, is disrespectful, is well, is really proud, is really mm, well, he thinks he's superior, he is so full of not kind attitudes, just showing off. Well, that's what we need to work on ourselves. The key is to always direct the observation to the inner world. So when we criticize, we are in the same pole or in the opposite pole of what we criticize. For instance, if we are wasteful, we are all the time spending our money in things that we don't need, just showing off that we have a status, we have wealth, we can acquire a lot of material things just to have a lot of comfort, and we feel superior. We criticize people that don't spend their money, that save their money, that are avaricious, and we criticize the opposite pole. But if we are avaricious, we are all the time retaining our money. We are afraid of losing our money, of spending a little, because we think that I'm going to, well, end up in poverty. We criticize all the time people that are wasteful and spend a lot of money, are really materialistic. But we are in the opposite pole, so we need to study both defects, the wasteful and the avaricious defects, in order to get to the conscience that is in the middle of those defects. It's not in one pole, but not in the other pole. It's managing our money with equilibrium in order to know what is useful, what is truthful and fair, to know how to use that external wealth for something that is profitable for our conscience, like giving this knowledge to people that really need it. Maybe if we want to travel, we need money in order to give this knowledge, this pure knowledge, to another person. So well, the other thing is the critical judgment. Our critical judgment is lost because there are defects that are hidden in our psychology, defects that are really in a profound and dark place of our psyche. And what bothers us about another person is something that we cannot perceive. It's really hidden, it's really profound in the dark side of the moon that we have inside of us. Maybe if we judge people because, oh, this is a pornography actress, or a person that is really scandalous in the sexual aspect. I'm really pure, I'm a saint, I don't do those gross things. I'm in the celibacy pole. I am criticizing people for being grotesque, obscene, fornicarious, and also I have those defects in my psychology, the egos of fornication, the egos of sexual degeneration. But if I'm not feeding them directly, but by the pole of the criticism, I think I am perfect. Like what happens is that in the hidden part, in the dark moon, the hidden part of the moon, I have those defects as well, but I'm just seeing the other pole. So here is the pole that is perceiving lust, criticizing people that are lustful, that are lascivious, and feeling that they are repulsive, that they need to get away, that they need to be rejected, that they need to be censored. And I think that I'm perfect, that I am total totally uh, a saint in that aspect. But what I confuse as being saint is just being stuck in the pole of celibacy, thinking that sex is something that is bad, that is wrong. But what we need to get to the bottom is the conscience. Where is the conscience? What is the real meaning of sexuality? Sexuality is not for just feeding our defects of fornication, pleasure, uh, sexual degeneration, but also is not for feeling disgust, feeling that sex is something gross, but the sexuality is for creating love. And love is something superior, something that it's like fire. It needs to create our inner existential bodies. Sexual fire is indispensable for connecting with our partner, our husband, and our wife with fidelity, chastity, and love. We need to have a sexual practice in order to create our existential bodies for our being. Many sexual practices that are going to be how we ascend our fire through our spinal cord, and is something that is really indispensable to awaken our conscience, because when we liberate the essence that is trapped in a psychological defect, that fire that is love and that light that is wisdom is going to ascend through the spinal cord and create these vehicles that are the existential bodies. So we need to eliminate those defects of celibacy that avoid sex, and those defects of sexual degeneration that just use sex for pleasure and for satisfying the defects of expelling the energy through fornication and orgasm, because we are going not this is a defect that doesn't let us value the sexual creative energy to create our conscience. So we don't know the reasons that force a person to act in a certain way. Uh, we criticize the prostitute, we criticize the beggar, we criticize people that we see outside and are also the appearances. This is not the real person, not, it's an appearance. We criticize the beggar because we don't like how he smells, how he looks. It provokes us disgust. We don't like the feelings, the sensory feelings that it transmits us, the bad smell. These are impressions that enter through our five senses, but are only the appearances. We don't know the profound meaning of that situation. We don't know the reasons that force that person to be put in that situation. And we cannot put in the shoes of that person to see that our judgment maybe was wrong. You say maybe the beggar is because he's a drug addict, because he is a mentally disturbed person, and so he's paying what he did. No, and we wrongly point at people, we criticize, and we calumny people that are around us, but we don't know their circumstances in life and why are they put in that situation. So this judgment is calumny and generates bad relationship with the person that is judged. Self-criticism, that is judging your defect. Maybe there is a defect that feels that the beggar is gross, and that the smell, that the appearance of the person that is messy, that is filthy. So we need to work on those defects of feeling gross, feeling that we are disgusted by the appearance or the smell of someone. Those are impressions of the five senses, and we don't get to value the being that is inside of that person. And we need to become aware of those defects and eliminate them in order to awaken the conscience that is trapped in that defect. Also, if we criticize a colleague because he's proud, because he feels superior, because he is well, uh, really, really disrespectful because of his attitudes. Those are impressions, and the impressions, we need to transcend them in order to get to the profound, to the real part of it. So, the real part of what happens is that we have a defect and that we are pointing at the person because we cannot see our own defect. We need to urgently eliminate it in order to awaken the power of love and wisdom that is trapped in that criticism. So that is the only way to perceive that what's happening inside ourselves, to use as an advantage the law of the mirror that is looking at our inner world, what we judge in other people. Mm, what what I urgently need to work on myself is what I see as a defect in another person. So, if we fight criticism and identification, our conscience will not go to sleep. And we will practice the critical judgment. We will establish an inner justice in the seven centers of our human machine, saving our mental energy. We need to beg to our Divine Mother, that is the force of love we carry within. Divine Mother, eliminate me this ego that is always thinking that I should not talk to this person in my job, I should just walk away, I should reject that person, I just don't like him, I feel antipathy towards him, and I am always thinking how I'm going to react when I'm encountering that person. So if I want to establish inner justice in my mind, so Divine Mother, eliminate me this ego of feeling antipathy, and I save my mental energy. I immediately save my emotional energy because I'm not feeling antipathy, resentment, hate, and I save my motor energy because I'm not criticizing, I'm not calumnying that person, talking things about him or her, gossiping, and I am saving all that energy along my daily life. So, well, this was the conference of the non-identification and uh, the critical part, why we criticize others, to stop letting our conscience to fall asleep when we feed directly a psychological defect, or when we feed it by the pole of the criticism. The idea is to practice Dead on March, that is begging to our Divine Mother to eliminate all those defects in order to establish inner justice and save our energy in all the centers of our human machine. And our conscience, we will be in the process of being awakened with every moment that we live the instant in a state of inner silence, just discovering all what's inside ourselves, all that inner darkness, and turning it into light and fire, the light of wisdom and the fire of love. So, thank you for sharing with us. Thank you for participating in the conference. There are no comments today, but if you have any doubt, I'll be willing to solve it. Thank you for sharing this moment with us, and we will be transmitting more conferences at this time, all the Sundays. Bye. Have a good afternoon. See you later.